this smartphone show, a hands-on review of the Sony Ericsson P990. Touchscreen, QWERTY keyboard, every feature known to man in a smartphone, but is it stable enough? Also a preview of the Nokia N95 cutting-edge N-series multimedia computer, and a preview of Windows Mobile 5 handsets to come in the next few months. Don't you just love coincidences? Sony Ericsson are trying to advertise the P990 in this show. I'm trying to review it. So before the review, let's see the ad. It shows off lots of the benefits of the device, and then I'll leap in with my own opinions. As with the rest of the P-series smartphones from Sony Ericsson, this has a fairly unique form factor with this fold-down flip. In this case revealing a small QWERTY keyboard, and the display itself is touch sensitive, very unusually for smartphones, and there's a stylus on the top that you can extract and use it as a traditional PDA. Within the box there's a screwdriver and a replacement part, so that if you want to you can even remove the flip and then just run the device with keyboard and stylus input. But one of the main attractions of UIQ3, the new interface for the P990i and its sister devices, are that you can actually do quite a lot in this flip closed mode using the standard phone control, standard phone D-pad, back, cancel and so on. And at least half the main applications, including things like email, calendar and contacts, all work quite happily from this T9 productive text, standard phone arrangement. And then when you want to do more, access office applications, play videos and do more customizations, you've got full stylus control with main menus, activity menus and so on. So you get the best of both worlds. Looking around the hardware, as I traditionally do, on the left hand side there's a music playback and pause button, a jog dial for going down lists and selecting icons, and you can press this in to select, and there's a back button. Quite common on modern devices now, just to go back to the previous screen, to exit a dialog or go back to the launcher perhaps. There's a lockable toggle. You press that and then the keys are locked, so that if in your handbag or briefcase things can't happen that you don't want, and you press that again to unlock or open the flip, of course. On the bottom there's Sony Ericsson's new fast port, their new style of connector, which handles headphone duties as well as connections to a PC. On the right hand side there's a camera shutter button, I'll come to that in a moment. Memory stick duo expansion, unique to Sony of course, it's one of their formats, and you can go up to 8 GB, although it does mean you have to buy a new card yet again if you're coming from a different platform, and a shortcut to the internet browser. In fact you can reconfigure this to any of the built-in applications, and I have it preset to the task manager, which lets you bring up the main menu and switch tasks quite quickly. On the front of the device there's a video camera for video calling, and then we'll open up and have a look at the keyboard in more detail. The keys themselves are small but discreet with a gap between them, and it's very easy to feel which key you're on. I have to say, as with most miniature keyboards, if you've got large fingers you're going to struggle here. But let's just see it in action. If I go through to the Quick Office, the built-in licensed third-party Office suite, and then say I want to create a new Word file. Notice I'm using my finger, the back of my fingernail here instead of the stylus. I just find it more convenient. Some people will prefer the real stylus. We'll give the document a name, test. One peculiarity of UIQ interface is that there's no OK buttons anywhere. Having completed a field, you simply tap outside it, and the contents of the field appear in their main form. Then tap on save. And now we're put into the new document and we can start typing away. So the quick brown fox, etc, etc, etc. It's not as fast as the keyboard on the Nokia E61 or the Nokia E70 or things like the HTC Universal, but for something of this size it's certainly quite usable. Interestingly, with the flip down you've got no D-pad, no directional pad. So there are left buttons and right buttons, and of course you've got up and down via the jog dial, but it's not quite as intuitive when you're moving around application screens, for example. To have to go up by going right left, left left right, using the jog dial or using these arrow keys. It's just not quite as intuitive as a D-pad, but a lot of the time you're going to be using the back of the fingernail or the stylus, so this is not going to matter. You'll notice along the bottom of the screen, very importantly, there's a new home icon, which gives you very quick access to common things you want to do, like a new text message, new contact, new appointment, and so on. And these enter the appropriate details in the appropriate application, contacts, calendar, messaging, and so on. It's very handy having a connections menu here, so that you can quickly control your Bluetooth, infrared, wireless LAN, turning them off and on, saving power perhaps, and seeing their status. Also controlling the overall device volume, very handy, and the different volumes of the various things that happen in terms of alerts. On the bottom right hand side of the status bar we have a task manager. Now curiously it doesn't actually show you the open tasks. You have to tap on the open tab to show you that. I guess this is an attempt to hide the underlying running tasks away from the casual user. Most people will then see the first tab, which is just a shortcut to the main menu, an activity menu, and any recent applications they may have started. What I've done, and you may have noticed this little blob in the top right hand corner, is a third-party program called Swiss Manager Pro, which I highly recommend, which gives you the full list of running tasks and extra shortcuts off the bat with simply one tap, rather than having to tap on that extra tab. You'll see from the main menu it's fairly colourful. They've given everything a bit of an overhaul. Let's just step through the different program groups. The multimedia, we've got web of course, plus the camera, and also a picture gallery for displaying your photos in a slideshow or standalone. There's an FM radio built in, although of course you have to have the headset plugged in so that it can use that as an aerial. There's a music player playing AAC and MP3 files, but not Windows Media Audio, interestingly. You've got a video player for playing back MPEG-4 and 3GP videos. Moving ahead to games, there's a rather tacky golf game that I wasn't at all impressed by, and a bubble freezing game, and a bit of music software. Then you've got messaging, calendar, as you'd expect, telephony, Quick Office we saw earlier for editing Excel and Word documents, and also a PDF viewer, plus the Office staples of notes and tasks which sync nicely across to their Outlook equivalents. There you've got contacts, and finally a tools folder, which is basically where you find everything else, including the default location for any third-party applications you care to install. One thing it's important to stress on the P990i is that there's great third-party application support, at least from Sony Ericsson. Their developer world is quite impressive in terms of encouraging new programmers along to provide new applications for their platform. It's very early days for UIQ3 yet. I should emphasise there's not much available, but there's certainly a lot of potential here. Now, I mentioned earlier that the P990 had Wi-Fi. If we go into the web browser, Wi-Fi being very good for doing fast web browsing, go into settings. One of the things to note is that Web is a rebrand of Opera, a very well thought of third-party browser. And in the settings, in addition to fit to screen and full screen, the two most useful options, just like Pocket Internet Explorer on Windows Mobile, there's this extra option Landscape, which turns your the web browser into a more desktop-like look and feel. And this is very useful, even though the screen itself is still 320 by 240 pixels, which means that you can't really see an awful lot in terms of desktop layout. But this form factor and being able to go to landscape is certainly quite valuable. The other application which uses landscape I will demonstrate because it's quite important on the P990i. We'll just go to the back of the unit for a moment and notice the camera. This circular arrangement is the camera housing, and you rotate the circular dial and that reveals the lens. There's a mirror and an LED flash as well, and the very act of exposing the lens brings up the camera interface, and you can just about see there the camera in action. Rather ugly fashion. Some of the labels, because this is flip closed, are set horizontally for flip closed, but appearing vertically if you're looking at it side on. The camera interface is a lot more elegant if you open the flip. In addition to having a larger viewfinder, you've then got icon control, and the jog dial controls the the zoom, as you'd expect. Now, the photographs taken with the P990i camera are very, very good indeed. It's 2 megapixels, which sounds pretty par for the course, but there's just the right degree of edge enhancement to make the pictures stand out in terms of detail and sharpness, and gorgeous, gorgeous colours. I would say better photos than things like the Nokia N70 and N90, which I've raved about in the past. It's also very noticeable. It's got autofocus. Having got an object in front of the viewfinder, by pressing gently on the camera button, focuses, and then once more to take the shot, like that. And the whole system works very smoothly indeed. And as I say, crystal clear images, and the P990i camera is a pleasure to use. So to my overall verdict. I did experience some crashes and the occasional restart. The free RAM inside the smartphone was low, which meant that applications occasionally got closed in the background when you try and do something ambitious like browse a web page or play a video. I expect that using the Sony Ericsson update service, which you can do from home over your broadband connection, feeding a new firmware in via the bottom port here, I expect that will give you more free RAM and certainly provide more stable applications in the coming months. So I wouldn't take the teething troubles to be indicative of not buying this device, and the fact that you can update it from home is a major boon. In summary then, tremendous potential, great hardware, great camera, still needs a little bit of work on the firmware, so watch this space and watch Sony Ericsson for news, and watch boards like allaboutSymbian.com and Asato to see what other users are finding from their P990s, problems they've had, and also when the new firmwares are available.
I couldn't let this show go by without at least a brief glimpse of the Nokia N95 multimedia computer, a smartphone by any other name, but very cutting edge. This is launched by Nokia in New York. It's got a 5 megapixel camera, DVD video capture, integrated GPS, integrated navigation software, hardware music controls, large high contrast screen, music playback, you name it, this thing's got it. Apparently I'm down to get one of the earliest production units late this year, so I'll certainly show you how this one behaves. I'm very aware that the bulk of this smartphone show has been devoted to the review of a Symbian OS based device and a preview of another Symbian device, but don't worry, Windows Mobile 5 has not been forgotten. Right now we've got a preview of some of the very latest cutting-edge Windows Mobile 5 based devices to appear on the internet. Hopefully we're going to be reviewing one in the next show, perhaps the HTC Excalibur shown here, a very much BlackBerry styled QWERTY keyboard landscape screen device which I'm very much looking forward to playing with. It's true that HTC are still cranking out the innovative form factors. This is their Libra, a conventional looking phone, if a rather large one, and then the whole front of the phone slides to one side and you've got a full QWERTY keyboard along the same lines as the HTC Wizard and HTC Hermes. This is HTC's Trinity, a very modern iPod-esque styling. This is also seen as the orange SPV M700 as shown here, and the kicker is that under the hood there's a full GPS receiver and onboard navigation software. Very, very impressive. Meanwhile, Dubai-based iMate have been cutting their ties with HTC, rebadging equipment from people like Dopod and Inventec. This is one of their rather bulky messaging devices, dubbed the Jack. Also shown here is the O2 XDA Stealth. I rather like this one. It's a full-fledged Windows Mobile Pocket PC, and then the front just slides up, and underneath there's the phone keypad, so you really can use it in either mode. And finally, something rather different. This is the Virgin Lobster 700. Rather odd looking because of that hump on the right hand side, which houses a DAB receiver for digital radio and, as shown here, digital TV. The frame rate is not terribly high, but it's certainly quite watchable and very innovative and a sign of the things to come. So there you go, plenty of innovations to look forward to in the Windows Mobile 5 front, and as ever we'll be here on the Smartphone Show video podcast to review them for you.